Hello, everyone. This is Bill Borsari, coming a special post AmiWest interview recording with Jens Schönfeld. Say hi, Jens.
Hello, AmiWest, or late AmiWest viewers.
So there's the recording has a giant JS in the middle of it from the tablet. But anyway, so we due to scheduling issues, we weren't able to record this interview at the show floor last weekend or 2 weekends ago. My gosh. So Jens and I worked out this time. We're coming together so that we can share his latest projects and get caught up for 2022. I know he had a big week 3 weeks ago at Amiga 37. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So Jens, why don't you give us a quick update from Amiga 37 before we jump into new products?
Amiga 37 was really busy for me. I had hardly any time to walk around and see what the others have been showing. So I'm really the wrong person to ask you.
Well, did you have a good show?
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. And after 3 years, I guess, seeing all the mad Amiga crowd, that was just great.
Did you have a table there?
Yeah, I had a table, actually 3 tables, so we had enough space. And I not only showed stuff, but also sold a little bit.
Oh, good.
So one of my employees was with us, and he took care of all the paperwork that's required if you sell something in Germany. No sale without a printed receipt. New laws.
Yeah, we ran into that at AmiWest with tax changes for PayPal, which caused us to scramble at the end. So that's a worldwide phenomenon, the government trying to take our money.
Yeah.
So that's great that you had a
They're
good
good
time
at it.
and we're able to sell some of the product. So what we promised at AmiWest is we were going to be talking about your new ACA accelerators based on the 040 and the 060. Do you want to walk us through those right now?
Yeah, that's the big thing that we showed in action during Amiga 37. This is the very card that was shown at Amiga 37. It is one out of 18 cards that have been produced. It is already the 5th prototype, this time in purple. My wife said I should try purple, and
Always smart to listen to your wife.
everyone loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a 40 megahertz 040, and we've been able to show that this actually beats a 50 megahertz 060 in just a few things. Of course, the 060 is faster. It has 2 execution units and mostly runs at higher speeds. But there are quite a few things that the 040 at 40 megahertz with this speed of memory can do almost as fast as a 50 megahertz of 060.
Yeah.
It has 256 megs of RAM. It works with the standard power supply. You don't need anything beefed up. The big heatsink that you can see here keeps it really cool. This whole thing covers a bit more than the CPU itself, and there is a little fan. This fan is temperature controlled. I'm not sure if you can see this little spot there.
Yeah, we can.
That's the temperature sensor
Hmm.
that is embedded in the heatsink.
Nice.
And maybe I can show it from the side. You can see the stack up.
Yep.
That's a socket, which will be there in mass production as well. Then the CPU, which almost has the same color as the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the heatsink. And the fan, that's a radial fan. It sucks in air up here and blows it over the heatsink. And the card actually sits this way in the computer. So the air comes from below the Amiga 1200 and is blown to the side away. The whole computer will need to be put a few millimeters higher. So we will include a little rubber feet that you can add to the bottom of the computer, and the fan is actually really low noise, which is also hard to demonstrate here. But people were like, "Oh, this is going to be loud," and I said, "Yeah, well, try to listen to it." So even at 40 megahertz, where 1990s cards were really running hot, this is lukewarm, and the fan, since it is temperature controlled, will only run as fast as it really needs to, and it never runs at high RPMs. We actually spin it up to full speed when you power up the computer, and then after a second or two, we spin it down to what's required at this temperature. And during operation, we have never heard it really run at full speeds. Like I said, this is from a pre-production. 18 units is what we've made. This is for hardware verification purposes. This is already the 5th prototype. There have been during the 7 years that we've been on this project, not continuously, but on and off. There have been quite a few revisions, and yeah, there is really only one thing left to verify, and that is this little thing. There is mass storage on the card. This is a micro SD card slot. This still needs to be verified, and once that is verified, we can go into production.
Wow.
Right now, this I can't say when this is going to happen, because there have been quite some holdups. Peter Wendrich, my employee, who's mostly responsible for all the FPGA work, he has been ill since summer of last year. He's still not doing the full hours, and now that he finally came back, working up to 70% of the hours, he now said that he needs to take care of a family member, so his hours are reduced once again.
That's terrible.
I will put my own more of my own time into this now to do this last verification step. As it stands right now, we might be able to launch production this year, but what I still promised during Amiga 37, and that was like delivery maybe before Christmas. This is currently sounding unlikely, but yeah, we'll do our best.
Yeah, it's always hard right now in the Amiga market because there's so few people to do the work that, you know, as you say, if you have a tragedy or an issue in your family, it's very difficult to get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and,
I noticed there's is that a USB header on the back of the card? What are those pins sticking off the backside?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah.
This is a JTAG. This is a development unit, and this won't be there in the mass production unit. I mean, the holes for the header are going to be there. We will be using them during mass production for board bring up, but these won't be assembled in the final production run.
I see.
These are jumpers. I just bent them aside. They are accessible from the top. You see that the heatsink is slightly, yeah, there's a little bit milled away, and that makes the jumper accessible. The heatsink itself, that will get a little sticker here. And you might see that little groove in the heatsink, which is which makes way for the wires. This is really a 4-wire fan, so it is speed controllable, and it reports the speed back to the controller, to the little microcontroller. So this is really top of what you can buy in terms of fans. This is actually custom made. You can't buy these off the shelf.
I was going to say, that's probably the most advanced fan that's ever gone in an Amiga 1200 before.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So are you going to include the heatsink with the 060 version as well? Because 060s didn't need them.
Yeah, they didn't need them, but the speeds that we want to overclock them to, they will come in handy.
Is that going to be soft, like you've done in your other accelerators? You'll be able to overclock it in software?
Yes, and I mean it's a lot of work for every single speed that we want to offer. It's almost an almost an entire day. Well, maybe 1.5 of days of work of Peter and me together. Tweaking things because the way that this memory is attached to the CPU is very high speed, but also very sensitive to proper timing. And we can show insane levels of memory transfer rates, which even beats the double data rate memory that is used on some other cards. And but the price for that is, of course, lots and lots of tweaking. Yeah, in other words, lots of work, and we want to make some money on this one. That means higher speeds you need to pay for in terms of a license. So if you buy a 25 megahertz 040 and then decide to put in your own 060 CPU, then it's going to work, but it's only going to work at the speed that you paid for. You can try higher speeds, but if you want to use them continuously, then yeah, please pay the license for our work.
So you just said that it's socketed, and that socket's pin compatible with both 040s, 060s.
Correct?
Are you going to sell a board without a CPU for those who have piles of them?
I can't because I really want to offer something that works. So we will deliver with the CPU, and therefore, and this enables us to say, okay, it came in a state that works, and well, the unfortunately, the chances that people have fake CPUs at home is pretty high. I mean, the 060 is traded very expensive right now. I've seen prices of up to like $600, $800 on eBay for a Rev 6 060 CPU. And I myself, I have been buying 060 and 040 CPUs for years now, for well over 10 years now.
Wow.
And I every time I bought larger quantities, I used escrow services, and I've actually had almost the same packages with fake CPUs a number of times here in Germany. I had to ship them back, and wasted the money on the escrow service, but luckily didn't lose any more money. But I mean, just a single escrow already costs about $150. So yeah, I lost that a total of 3 times. And I just decided, okay, if somebody is offering this quantity of 060s, then it's going to be fake, period.
Yeah. So what is a fake 060? I mean, what exactly are you talking about there? Is it like the heatsink and the pins, or?
No, that specific lot was relabeled 040s, so that was totally easy to identify. I mean, you just look at the bottom and you see that there is a missing pin row. Other fakes are a little bit more elaborate. They actually take 060s, older 060s, and relabel them with Freescale and the mask set of revision 6 MC 68060. Sometimes they even take the LC and EC 060s. So yeah, anything that's valuable, they'll print on whatever you order.
It's mind-blowing that happens. Mind-blowing. But okay. I guess there's another market outside. It's not just for the Amiga community they're doing this. There's got to be other markets for those CPUs.
There are a lot. I mean, even Jelly Bean operational amplifiers that are that usually are in the few 10 cents area. They have been trading really expensive these past 2 years. And there's really nothing that doesn't get faked.
Wow.
So
I had no idea. And I think for people listening, when you think about the cost of these projects, in the hardware world, we call it NRE, non-recoverable. It drives up the cost, right? We haven't talked about what you hope to bring these to market with. I'm assuming you're going to have a spectrum, and it's going to be driven by CPU choice. If you want a really quality 060, it's going to be substantially more than a slow 040. But do you have an idea of what the cost of these is going to be yet? Are you happy to share that?
Yeah, of course. Luckily, 68040 CPUs are not fake that often, and since I started buying them over 10 years ago, I have those pretty cheap. So, but still, the card is going to appear expensive when I now say that a 25 megahertz or 40 is going to cost 500 euro. So, yeah, that's currently less than $500. The dollar is really strong at the moment, but it's still a lot of money. It's more than 100 euros more than the 50 megahertz or 30 that we're currently offering.
Yeah.
But there are a few features that I haven't even announced yet, and they are going to be worth it. I don't want to announce. I don't want to spill the beans because it's not verified yet.
Okay.
The only thing that is verified is that the FPGA has access to all the signals that are required, and the FPGA size itself is chosen to be big enough so it can hold future expansion.
Okay.
It's the same technology that we, for example, also have on the flicker fixers. So whenever we make improvements on the hardware side, if it's an FPGA, we can distribute this to the field just with a download. So you flash your unit and you have the new hardware features. That's it's not exactly OTA updates, which is the big thing in the auto industry now.
Yes.
Almost. Yeah, use Wi-Fi, then it's OTA.
Interesting. Well, I'm excited to see how that shapes up. They do look like amazing cards. I mean, we've had these conversations in the past where, surprisingly, the 1200 accelerator market is getting crowded. It's probably as crowded today as it was back in 95 or 96 with, various products available. And I know that you do a ridiculous amount of engineering above and beyond what some of the other technologies have. Not that they don't work, but I know you put a lot of time. Being able to soft clock it. You showed the mass storage. I imagine you don't have numbers for that. Your other accelerators, if I recall, were about 14 megabytes a second off the standard header on the best case.
That's raw transfer rate, yeah. The ACA1234 at 50 megahertz, if you put in a CF card, a fast CF card into the local slot, then you might be able to crack 10 megabytes a second in transfer rate, read performance.
Yeah.
Of course, amazing. I hope to achieve something similar with the micro SD slot, but so in theory, using 4-bit mode and 100 megahertz, you could transfer 400 megabits. That's over 14 megabytes a second, but that's subject to we need to try. And of course, you need to verify if all this is working.
That's amazing. It's amazing to get that kind of disk performance, because having spent a lot of time with my Amiga 1200 for last year's banquet, the biggest pain is disk performance. And I don't have one of your newer accelerators in there, unfortunately, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do there on these new units.
Actually, the new accelerators, all of them, the 1221 LC on the cost-wise lower end, up to the 1234, which is the current 031, they all have the IDE speeders. So they also speed up the local IDE port of the 1200. Yeah. And that's, of course, something that's also in the 12. Well, I'm always pointing here. You don't see that. That's also part of this product. So it speeds up the internal IDE, where you can connect your physical hard drive, and of course it needs a local CF. This one is a local SD, micro SD in this case, and it really makes it feel like this is an Amiga 3000 with fast SCSI or something. and even beating that.
Yeah.
Now,
Fascinating.
now speed-wise, of course, I mean, a CPU is not just fast because it's clocked very fast. In order to make a CPU fast, you well, you need to think about what is the CPU actually doing. It's executing commands, and it can only execute commands at the pace that it can read them from memory. So a fast memory interface is really key to a fast CPU card, which
Yeah.
is why pretty much every accelerator has local memory, local fast mem,
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's called. But of course, the trick is to shave off every wait state that's possible. And I specifically decided not to use DDR memory, which, although that's the current thing, and pretty much everyone probably says, yeah, I mean DDR, yeah, that's the fastest. Yeah, let's use the fastest. But in case of DDR memory, you don't gain any speed because it needs to be clocked at a different frequency, and it needs to propagate through clock domains, through voltage domains, and probably even through a cache controller, because you cannot do certain tricks like only make a single access here and make a burst access in a different place. That was all still possible with SDRAM, so single data rate SDRAM, which is what this card is using. We are
I see.
using SDRAM, which is, well, these days it's like old technology. But in terms of interfacing to this legacy processor, the 040, 060, that really makes it faster. In this case, slower is faster because we can um, we can clock the memory at a whole number multiple frequency of the processor, which lets us really run it at 0 wait state for bursts and 1 or 2 wait states for the first access penalty, and that makes it incredibly fast.
Interesting.
Not only on fast mem, but also chip RAM performance. That's also interesting. If you want to access the Amiga 1200 and get good graphic speed there, then you want to have high throughput to the local chip RAM. I've already optimized this to the max with the other accelerators, and especially the 040, 060 accelerators from the 1990s. They had chip RAM performance really suboptimal. um, the fastest speed you can get is about 7 megabytes a second on a 1200. But the Phase 5 and Apollo accelerators that have been available in the late 90s, they topped out at about 4.5 megabytes a second.
Hmm.
And that's really a problem of the CPU.
Okay.
And the way that it handles wait states. And I have, well, that's part of the reason why I have made so many different prototypes, because I have developed a whole new interface that talks to the Amiga 1200 with quite some elaborate logic in order to reach those theoretical maximum 7 megabytes a second. We have shown this at Amiga 37. It works with 040s and the 060s, so that is really something that has never been shown before with 040 and 060 accelerators. So you will get the top graphic speed that you may know from faster 030 accelerators. And you really did feel a step back in the 90s when you switched to 040 or 060, and many people were actually complaining, like, yeah, why is the CPU so slow on this memory? And then I guess Phase 5 came out with the B Vision that you can connect to the
Yeah.
I believe to some local slot.
On the CSP,
And
on the Blizzard PowerPC board, not on the Blizzard 060s.
okay, I'm not too familiar with that, but part of the reason why we did so much verification work on this prototype is that we have a fast graphics port here.
Ah, I was waiting for
Can you
that
read
one. I
that?
mean, you did
Can
buy
you read that?
Picasso 96, and you're pretty smart about your money. So I figured
Thanks.
you're gonna pull that one. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, so we verified that this port can transfer data at the desired data rate and not influence memory stability, because this is actually hanging on the local SD RAM bus.
Okay.
And if you put an additional load on it, we had to verify that the rest of the memory isn't affected performance-wise or stability-wise. That's verified positive. The unit that we developed for that is not a usable graphics card. It does
Sure.
have a VGA out. It does have a little bit of memory, but it only has a tiny FPGA, and it has a form factor that is, yeah, is never going to fit in
Sure.
any real
Sure.
Amiga 1200. I believe I did publish a picture in the forum, in our support forum, and I believe I also published it on Twitter.
Hmm. So is this something that you're going to release the specification for? Because there is the ZZ9000, I think it is. Sorry, my I'm getting a phone call here. I'm trying to deal with. Um, uh, there's the ZZ9000 card that someone made that's effectively open source. Or are you guys going to take that on as a project under the iComp label?
I will definitely make my own card, but I mean, if Lucas from MNMNT, I
Yes.
don't,
Yeah.
I can never,
Yes, that's it.
Lucas, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
If you're watching, I can definitely publish the specs. It's I mean, basically, it's going to be a fast memory bus that he can interface to, but I doubt that it really makes sense to attach something like the ZZ9000, because ZZ9000 is something that I believe it's based on essentially a single chip computer, or single board
Yeah.
computer,
Yeah.
and lots of software. And this is really going deep into the weeds. And I'm not sure whether the interface that Lucas has designed can be made compatible. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm not going to stop him. So if there's interest in that, then yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, I just think right now with the way the Amiga market is going, it's better to have things a little bit more open. I just see a lot of energy, people designing accelerator boards and designing add-ons. There's a couple people made some clock port devices. So anyway, that looks amazing, and I'd say in 2022 releasing an 060 accelerator that was not expandable, did not have graphics, would be challenging. But the fact that there's an opportunity to put up a graphics card on that sucker, and I imagine, well, I don't want to speculate too far. But if you build a graphics card, you might want to have it run in other processor types as well in the future. In the future, but I'm super excited that you have Picasso 96. You've had some releases of that on your website, which is fantastic. And now we know why, right? You've got big plans and you've been working on it. So you'll be ready once you select your chip. Hopefully for AmiWest 2023, we can have you back on and you'll have a prototype of the graphics board. But I don't want to take all your time today as much as I enjoy it talking to you, Jens. I want to ask you, what's kind of the status of your other products? You've got the Indivision Mark III for the 1200, which is fantastic, and you've added all sorts of controls in there to really improve the gaming experience. Where are your other products right now, given the global supply chain challenges that people have?
Supply chain has been really a big challenge. I mean, last year we talked about the 1234 and the long time that it took until it really reached production. And I mean, we did have similar challenges in the years before. I mean, in 2016 to 2017, there was just a shortage of capacitors. So all the chips were available, but production runs couldn't be started because capacitors were missing.
Hmm.
And I was just so lucky to call my distributor at the right time, and he was just looking up and say, "Oh, okay, you're a regular customer. Yeah, we're my boss is currently allowing me to sell you 60% of the quantities that you bought last year."
Uh-oh.
Okay, thanks. Um, Yeah, so I learned the hardware, the hard way that yeah, assembly without components is kind of boring.
Yeah, it's
It's
difficult too. Yeah, especially to do
um,
partials and inventory. It's very hard. Yeah,
yeah, so I mean, just to I mean, on the technical side, these assembly machines, you can of course program them to not assemble a certain component. But if you decide to do that, then machine assembly won't be possible for assembly of that final component that's probably missing.
yeah,
So you can either start the production run with that, and then say, okay, it needs to be manually assembled, and it needs to be finished manually, or you say, no, I can't start the production run right now, and that's what you need to do. So I started a method of working during that time, during that capacitor shortage, when to really yeah, when I'm designing in a part and I know that I want to produce this and that quantity of this thing, I buy the part at the time when I design it in, because it might not be available next week.
right.
And therefore, yeah, my stock of components is very good. I can produce everything I want, but if it comes to external things, then I mean, components that I buy as well, let's say as a black box, that is pretty challenging. You might know that I have this CA PSU, the power supply
Yep.
for 1200, 600, and 500.
Which you've never
That's
released
a
the U.S. version of yet.
Yeah, and chip shortage is actually the big problem. We have, I mean, it's a two-box solution. One is just a 12-volt power supply, which is yeah, low ripple and high amperage, and the second box is the DC-DC converter part that does the voltage regulation and all the little magic of cable drop compensation. And we have actually produced those, but we can't get the 12 volt, 5 amp power supply that I have qualified with my product liability insurance, and I
Yeah.
can't switch to just any other. So I have to wait until that's available, which it seems like the chip market is getting a little easier now.
Good.
So it might happen in December or January. I don't know yet, but things are looking good there.
If you do make
Um,
a U.S. version, send me an email. I'm definitely I'll buy the first one.
all right,
So, because I saw that
good.
talk you did at Amiga 34 on the power supply. I think it's posted. Where you went into depth in terms of the research you did on that. Is either the 30th or the 34th, but yeah.
Yeah, that's probably this thing that's on. I think it's still on Twitch. I did that for the revision demo party.
Revision. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Into the depth. And I watched that and I was like, okay, I don't understand 50% of what he's saying, but clearly he does. So
Yeah.
let's
Well, I have published all the numbers, so
yeah.
and I have published it in a forum thread on our support forum. So if you want to know any details, just ask in that support forum. So I mean, yes, I am the business owner, and I need to do all this administrative work. But what I like best is really tech talk.
Yeah. No, you do, you do. So let's move on. Let's wrap up here in the next 10 minutes. So is there
Good.
anything else that you want to show to the audience here?
Yeah, I can show you the exact same thing, unpacked, but still in the exact same shape that it was shown during Amiga 37. This is an Amiga 600 board. Let me remove this one. This is just distracting. This is an ACA1240 and a flicker fixer. So that is yeah. I mean, my regular customers know this.
Yeah.
Now this thing here,
ACA 600. Yep, we see it.
correct. This plugs over the CPU,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, as you can see, it's the very first prototype. It's something where I even messed up the the position relation
Yeah.
between the Gale chip and the CPU, because I need to get some signals from the Gale chip.
Uh-huh.
And I even had to raise the board,
Yeah, I see.
so I can use this one. Um, what should be obvious already?
Is
It's
the
an
edge connector.
adapter
Yep.
that will let you connect Amiga 1200 accelerators inside of an Amiga 600, and the goal is to even be able to close the computer with the 1200 accelerator and the floppy drive in. It's going to be crowded, but I want to make this work. I want people to be able to build a little sleeper.
Yeah.
Uh, Amiga 600. It looks stock from the outside, and then if you switch it on, you have it as a, I don't know, 50 megahertz or 30 or even 100 megahertz or 60.
Yeah.
Uh, that's not been shown before. The unit itself is going to be cheap. I want to make this as cheap as possible, and I want this to work as a standalone device as well. As a standalone device, well, maybe I can show a few things here. That's some logic, and
Yeah.
this chip up here, that's memory, 8 megabytes of memory. That
When you say standalone, you mean that if I buy that and plug it into my A600, it adds value to the 600. Not that I can power that board with a with a 1200 card in it. Standalone has a couple of different meanings there.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, standalone doesn't mean you can operate it
Yeah,
alone.
yeah, yeah,
You can operate it just by plugging it into the Amiga 600, and
yeah.
that will give you value in terms of compatibility, mainly compatibility. That's what I'm looking for here, because the Amiga 600 is not Amiga 500 compatible. And that is the reason for that is mostly kickstart issues and memory issues. The Amiga 500 has its trapdoor memory expansion at a different memory address, and many software titles of the late 80s, early 90s, they are using that memory at that specific address, and
I
they,
see.
they are not even asking the operating system, hey, where's memory?
Yeah,
Allocate me some memory and give me the address. They just assume I'm on an Amiga 500, and this Amiga 500 has that 1 mega expansion. That's what it was called back then.
yeah.
Although it was plus 512K.
Right, right.
So memory in the right spot and Kickstart is what I want to offer with this one. So it's going to have 8 megs of memory plus 8 megs of flash. So
Oh,
the whole software suite that you already know from the 1234 is going to be included here. I specifically did not want to match the specifications of the ACA 500 Plus, because many of the features that the ACA 500 Plus is giving to the Amiga 500, they are already there on the 600. You have your local IDE port where you can connect the CF card slot with really low-cost adapters, which we're also providing, including buffers. um, and you have a PCMCIA slot where you can connect either a networking card or yet another CF card adapter. And I want to have all the software for that in the flash,
yeah.
plus kickstarts.
Nice.
So you can really degrade the 600 to a 1 megabyte Amiga 500 with Kickstart 1.3,
Nice.
or you can upgrade it to a 68,000 powered Amiga, but with 8 megs of mem and all the software that you need to access your local CF, your PCMCIA CF, or just to get you connected to the net. Some or many Amigas actually suffer from dead floppy drives, or
Mhm.
if somebody is just resurrecting his Amiga after 10 years in a humid basement. And that's, yeah, I mean, the most difficult part of setting up an Amiga after such a long time is getting software into it.
Yeah.
And a transfer method, or a cheap transfer method, will only work if you have a method to transfer drivers into your Amiga.
Right.
That's a chicken and egg problem. You need a transfer method in order to install your transfer method. So having essential software in the flash
Yep.
of this card will make things a lot easier. And yeah, we've learned that with the 1234. I mean, the feedback that we're gaining from the 1234, it's just great. I mean, I read those emails and I see people smile
Yeah.
how easy it works. Like, yeah, I wanted to do this, and yeah, it was just so easy. I got on the net and installed the operating system within minutes. So yeah, I want to have this exact same experience on a very low cost card. I will try to make this thing in the 50 to 60 euro pricing area. So not
Nice.
everything in the Amiga world needs to be really expensive.
Yeah. Well, it depends what components. Have you looked at using things like this? Uh, Let me click my mouse here. You know, there's this basically Wi-Fi SIP device that's available. I think they run on some of the Terrible Fire boards, right?
It's very unfocused, but
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen these before, but I believe this is ESP32 based.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Um, well, do they have working drivers?
Yeah, they do. I'll send you
Okay,
an email. I'll
great.
send you the link. So basically, if you have a Terrible Fire, there's a header on the Terrible Fire that you can mount
Mm-hmm.
this to, and you basically get Wi-Fi. This is the one for the CD32, but you basically
Oh,
get
okay.
Wi-Fi in your CD32. I can't speak to the exact quality. I haven't tried it yet, but there's even a terminal program you can interact with it so that you
Mm-hmm.
can make changes and set it up via serial. So it's super low
Cool.
cost and it works apparently. But I
Sounds
will.
great.
I'll send you a link to that so you can see what it looks like. Because if you have the software and all the embedded, it might be possible to add that sucker on there. Then you have Wi-Fi in your 600 for almost free.
Yeah, I mean, Wi-Fi on as a PCMCIA card, that's pretty hard to come by. There
Yeah.
are one or two cards that are compatible with the drivers that you can get on AmiNet. I have never been able to make it work, so that's
I
yeah.
have, but it is super unreliable. I've always used
Hmm.
wired on my 1200s for network. So anyway, so I'm going to think about it. I'll send you links to it after we're done here.
And let me know how it really works. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
terms
There's
of
some
stability
online.
and ease of setting up.
There's some people that have gone through it. Anyway, we can dovetail later. So I'd be
Okay.
remiss in AmiWest Pass. We talked about this before. The Buster, and can you
Yeah.
give us an update on Buster 12? Because when you announced it at 2020, I was super excited for that product and moving that forward because I love my big box machines. And anything that can improve and increase performance, but also I mean, I have seen some FPGA or there's an external Buster 11 on GitHub now that someone's created for the 2000. So people are working in that area, but having Dave Haney work on a Buster chip was just insane. So can you give us an update on that?
Yeah. I actually met Dave Haney at the Amiga 37 show in Germany almost 2 weeks ago now, or is it three? I don't know. Yeah, in mid October. Um, we actually had to apologize to each other why we didn't follow up. I mean, he had family issues, and I had a lot of work, and of course the issue with Peter, and of course my own little COVID stories. I mean, 2020 was the announcement, and that was also the year of the first lockdowns here. So yeah, the project is still alive, and we are going to follow up, especially now that the chip market appears to be a little bit easier now. We can now finally make a decision on components that will hopefully be available by the time that the design is finished. So yeah, it's going to happen, but it's happening at a slow pace.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the update. And again, AmiWest 2023. Maybe we'll have another interview and maybe there'll be some progress.
Sure, looking
We'll
forward
see.
to it.
Yeah, we'll see. Any closing words, Jens? Thank you for your time today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Closing words. Yeah, let's make. Yeah. I don't. This is. I don't know. This is. It's probably going too far when I explain my no lawyer policy. But yeah, let's just say that. I wish that there's a little bit more peace and creativity in the Amiga area, and that's what I would like to see, and that's what I would like to focus on in the time until AmiWest 2023.
That sounds great. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks, Jens.
Thank you. Bye bye.